This is Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in Solenia. Solenia caught me off guard. I hadn't played it ever, and Megan introduced it to me recently. We played a two-player game, and it included some really clever mechanisms and components, including one that I won't talk about too much, but I do want to show it to you because they are cards, if I can find them. They're cards with holes in them. Yeah, look, check this out. These are little mini cards. Look, that is an actual hole there through all the cards. There's a reason for this in the game. I won't go into it here, but I thought that was really interesting to have a card with a hole in it. Really clever. However, my favorite mechanism in the game is the day-night system as it relates to the cycling board. There's a board cycling mechanism here that I think is really smooth and really clever, and it carries over into multiple mechanisms. At the beginning of the game, you set up the board with these tiles. So these are the tiles in the game. You set them up. They kind of fit in like this, and you have 5 of them on the table. So it looks like that. So you have them all lined up. And as you can kind of see, some of the boards are dark. That represents nighttime, and this is daytime. So you're kind of cycling through days in this game. And the way you do it is very organic thanks to these tiles. There are certain times in the game where you must move forward in time, basically. It's really a time mechanism. And when you do that, you take the bottom row and you flip it over and you add it to the top of the board. I've simplified it here because I only have 2 tiles showing, but that's all you do. That's how easy it is. There's no greater upkeep or anything like that. All you're doing is flipping that tile over and moving it to the top, and then you've cycled it. Then you've refreshed different mechanisms at the top of the board, different resources that you can get, different benefits, and you've added some variability to the bottom of the board. So I thought the sheer simplicity of cycling it using these tiles was really clever, and the component was designed really well to do that. But one other element of it that I thought was really clever is that you are playing those cards with holes on them, throughout this board, and oftentimes they can end up on the bottom row. And by doing so, because I mentioned the bottom row, the bottom tile here is regularly cycled to the top of the board. When you do that, you remove those cards from this bottom row, and you get a certain benefit on those cards for being cycled. One of my favorite things in games is when it is not your turn, but you still get a benefit. You're getting benefits when it's not even your turn. And that is very much the case here, because sometime during the game, you may have placed a card on this tile. Even when this tile was way up here, you might have placed it on it. And then you're not doing anything. You've played that card. That was your turn. And then much later in the game, or much sooner in the game, depending on which tile you place it on, when that tile is cycled, you are getting a benefit from it. So for you, it's kind of this passive benefit. It feels really good to get that benefit from it being on this bottom row when the bottom row is cycled. And also in doing that, it's important in this game that there are eligible spaces to play cards. And so it's important for this bottom row to cycle out to make room for more cards. And it's a clear physical indicator that you are picking this thing up, all the cards on it are sliding off and moving to the top row. So again, there's really no other trigger required here, no greater upkeep. It's very intuitive that you're taking off this tile and everything on this tile and cycling it up to the top. Altogether, I think this mechanism comes together really well. I've talked about a little bit why it shines, what problem does it solve. One thing I didn't mention is that the day and night mechanism matters in the game. It isn't arbitrary. Basically, there are 2 different types of orders that you can fill, and there are day orders and there are night orders, different system of orders that you can fulfill. And that's how it's tied to the day and night system, depending on where you are filling the order on this map. I've talked about design and component implications here too, and how do I see it used elsewhere? There are many other games that use day-night cycles or some sort of time cycling mechanism. Sometimes it's player determined, like there are time tracks that a player is using. In Charterstone, for example, we have a progress track. But I really like how the day-night cycle works in this game, how intuitive it is, how it physically changes the board without being cumbersome, without requiring much upkeep. And so I think it's done really well here, and I would love to see other games use day and night systems or time cycling systems that are this simple and this intuitive and yet this impactful. So yeah, that's my favorite mechanism in Solenia. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below if you have played this game, or if you can think of other kind of time cycling, day or night cycling systems in games. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks.